Every motorcycle tells a story, not about the machine, but about you. You might think you just bought what fit your budget, or what got good reviews, or what the dealership had in stock that day. But to the rest of the world, that bike is a billboard, a personality test, a loud, rumbling declaration of who you are, or who you think you are. Some bikes say you're experienced, some say you're clueless. Some say you peaked in 2003 and never recovered. And the best part, you can't control it. Because once you roll up on that machine, the judgments start, whether they're fair or not. So today we're breaking it all down. What your motorcycle says about you. The vibe, the stereotype, the brutal truth. And maybe, just maybe, the part you don't want to admit. Let's get into it. Number 1. Kawasaki ZH2. You ride a ZH2, which means you looked at normal naked bikes and said, cool, but where's the supercharger? You didn't just want fast, you wanted unhinged. You wanted torque that slaps, whistles, and shoves the earth backwards every time you twist the grip. This bike says you're either dangerously overconfident or just bored with sanity. Your gear has seen better days, your license has seen better odds, and your tires? Flat in the middle, bald on the sides, and always suspiciously warm. You talk about horsepower numbers like baseball stats. You explain the supercharger to anyone who looks confused, like a proud parent showing baby photos. And you absolutely love when people ask if it's a ZX-10R, because you get to correct them. Loudly. The ZH2 isn't a naked bike. It's a statement, a weaponized middle finger to subtlety. And you love that, because riding it isn't about control, it's about barely keeping up with the chaos you signed up for. You didn't buy it to commute. You bought it because you want to experience what it feels like to accelerate faster than your brain can process. And hey, if it shortens your life a little, that's just weight reduction. Number 2. Indian Scout Bobber. Riding an Indian Scout Bobber says you wanted a cruiser, but not that kind of cruiser. You looked at Harleys, saw the chrome and tassels, and said, yeah, no thanks. You wanted something meaner, lower, more cinematic. This bike says you care about aesthetics, probably too much. You spent 2 hours picking the helmet that fit the vibe. You've got photos of the bike from 5 different angles and golden hour lighting, and if someone asks how it rides, you mostly talk about how it looks parked. But let's not pretend it's just for show. You do ride it. Not far, not fast, but often. Coffee shop to brewery, brewery to barbershop, every ride's a short film. You don't use turn signals. You just lean and hope everyone understands the artistic direction. You probably own at least one denim vest, even if you don't wear it. You call it a bobber, not a scout, because branding matters. And every time someone asks if it's fast, you smirk and say, fast enough. You didn't buy a cruiser. You bought a mood. Number 3. Aprilia Tuono V4. You ride a Tuono V4, which means you like your sport bikes with a little more comfort. And your comfort with a lot more screaming Italian rage. You didn't want a Panigale, you wanted something almost as angry, but with upright bars and a seat that doesn't feel like punishment. This bike says you're one of 2 people. Either a former track day regular who got tired of back pain, or a tech nerd who read every comparison article on the internet before finally choosing the one with the best power to everything ratio. The Tuono doesn't just go fast. It sings while doing it. You know that. You've told people that. Multiple times. You've also memorized the gear ratios, the exhaust note frequencies, and how to pronounce Aprilia correctly. You don't ride to be seen. You ride to be understood. And if people don't get it, that's fine. You weren't talking to them anyway. Your garage is clean. Your chain is cleaner. And all your friends secretly think you're a better rider than they are. Because you probably are. Number 4. Honda Rebel 500. If you ride a Rebel 500, there's a 90% chance this is your first bike. The other 10%? You just really like that it fits your jeans and your budget at the same time. This bike says you're chill, not lazy, just not here to impress anyone. You don't care about brand loyalty, horsepower bragging rights, or even whether people notice your bike. You care that it starts, rides smooth, and looks good next to your iced coffee. You've definitely been asked, what size is that thing? And every time, you explain it's a 500 like it's some secret no one expects. Because, to be fair, it does look bigger than it is. The Rebel isn't trying to be a performance machine, it's trying to be a gateway drug. And it does that perfectly. You're probably already eyeing something else, but for now, you're enjoying the ride, the comfort, and the fact that your monthly payment is lower than your cell phone bill. Rebel riders don't chase attention, they chase vibes, and usually find them in a parking lot full of Royal Enfields and Groms. Number 5. Husqvarna Svartpillen 401. You ride a Svartpillen, which means you don't just like motorcycles, you like motorcycles aesthetically. You probably discovered it on Instagram, fell in love with the tank shape, and had no idea what a 401cc single actually felt like until you rode it home. This bike says you value design. You like angular tail sections, awkward mirrors, and tank racks you'll never use. You bought it because it looked like it came from the future, or at least from Sweden. You didn't realize it was just a KTM Duke in disguise until someone pointed it out, and by then, you were already too attached. You don't ride far, but you ride often. You've definitely taken photos of it in front of graffiti walls. Your helmet has a tinted visor for no reason, and your jacket, probably waxed canvas, and probably not armored. The Svartpillen isn't about performance, it's about uniqueness. It's the motorcycle version of a vintage film camera. More form than function, but undeniably cool. Number 6. Yamaha XSR 900. Riding an XSR 900 says you're retro, but in a spreadsheet kind of way. You love the idea of old school bikes, but you also like fuel injection ABS and knowing your engine won't explode if you miss a shift. This bike says you've got taste. And probably a playlist called Garage Rock Revival saved on your phone. You like brushed aluminum round headlights and the idea that your bike could have been in a 1982 sci-fi movie, but only if it had a cafe racer subframe and some questionable LED strips. You're the type who cares about torque curves, but also color palettes. You've read up on suspension geometry. You know this engine came from the MT-09, but you won't admit that it makes you like it a little less. You're not flashy, you're not slow, you're just refined. A little quirky, a little cooler than you let on. You don't ride to show off, you ride because it feels right. And the XSR? That's your Goldilocks bike. Not too modern, not too vintage, just weird enough to feel like yours. Number 7. Moto Guzzi V7. If you ride a V7, you've either owned a dozen bikes already and finally settled into your groove, or you're just a hopeless romantic with a thing for sideways cylinders and Italian nostalgia. Either way, this bike says one thing loud and clear. You've got taste, and you don't give a damn what anyone else thinks. The V7 isn't fast. It's not high-tech. It doesn't try to be anything it's not, which is exactly why you love it. You like the character, the quirks, the fact that the engine rocks the whole bike when you blip the throttle. It makes noise, it vibrates, and somehow, it still feels elegant. You've probably explained what a transverse V-twin is at least once. You've definitely had someone ask, what the hell is a Moto Guzzi? And you always answer the same way with a small, knowing smile and a gentle reminder that not all good things come from Japan. Your jacket's leather, your boots are scuffed, and your Instagram feed has more black and white riding photos than it should. You don't ride for speed, you ride for soul. And the V7 delivers that in spades. Number 8. Can-Am Ryker. You ride a Ryker, which means two things. You didn't want to give up the thrill of open-air riding, and you didn't want to deal with balancing 600 pounds of motorcycle at red lights. Respect. This thing says you're not trying to be a biker. You're just trying to have fun. You like throttle, wind, and leaning into corners without the constant fear of tipping over or dropping it in front of a gas station crowd. The Riker doesn't pretend to be cool in a traditional sense, but it doesn't need to. It's quirky, unique, and doesn't fit in anywhere, which suits you perfectly. You've probably been called a trike guy more than once. You've probably also outrun a few sport bikes in the twisty, just to remind them 3 wheels still means business. You wave at everyone, you smile more than most riders, and your attitude, effortless. The Riker says you stopped caring what's real or core, you just wanted to ride. And you figured out how to do it without wrecking your knees or your confidence. You're not riding a motorcycle, you're riding your own lane. And that's kind of badass. Number 9. Suzuki DR-Z400 SM. If you ride a DR-Z400 SM, you're a menace. Not because the bike's fast, it's not. Not because the bike's loud, though it probably is. But because you treat every parking lot, intersection, and alleyway like a private stunt course. This bike says you crave mischief. You didn't buy it for touring. You didn't buy it for speed. You bought it to hop curbs, slide corners, and wheelie past traffic like a delinquent courier with nothing to lose. You wear a backpack instead of saddlebags. Your gloves are shredded. Your helmet's got a GoPro mount even if the camera's long gone. You've considered installing handguards, not for off-roading, but to protect your bars when you drop it trying something dumb. The DRZ doesn't reward finesse. It rewards chaos. It's tall, twitchy, and underpowered, and somehow, that's the magic. You don't care that it tops out at 90. You care that it feels like warp speed when you're weaving between traffic cones in an empty lot. Your DRZ doesn't say you're mature. It says you're alive. And maybe a little uninsurable. Number 10. CF Moto 300 NK. You ride a CF Moto 300 NK, which means you wanted a brand new bike at a used bike prices. And you were willing to roll the dice on a badge no one can pronounce without sounding like they're naming a software update. This bike says you like value. Not performance, not history, just clean looks, LED lights, and a spec sheet that reads better than it rides. You probably got it as your first bike, maybe your second, but either way, you've convinced yourself it was just as good as the big brands, and now you spend half your time defending it in comment sections. Let's be fair, it looks great. Sharp lines, modern features, decent brakes, and if no one asks about reliability, you're having a great time. You haven't hit the brand loyalty phase yet. You're still in the explore and justify phase. But hey, we've all been there. Just make sure your dealership doesn't disappear before your warranty does. CF Moto riders aren't clueless. They're just early adopters with very optimistic expectations. Ride it, love it, and maybe don't race anyone just yet. Number 11. Zero SRF. If you ride a Zero SRF, you're either a tech enthusiast, an environmentalist, or someone who just really hates shifting. This bike says you're done with combustion drama. No oil changes, no noise, no heat. Just torque. Glorious instant torque. And silence. You don't announce your arrival. You glide in like a ghost with somewhere to be. You've definitely had to explain range anxiety. You've definitely been asked how long it takes to charge. And you definitely have a charger in your backpack, just in case. Zero riders are futuristic. You probably also have smart home lights, a Tesla on order, and a deep moral conflict about whether motorcycles should even be fun. But don't get it twisted. The SRF is fun, just in a different way. Quiet, brutal, almost surgical. You're not trying to impress old-school riders. You're trying to build a new kind. And if that means pulling up to bike night without a sound, that's fine. You'll still be the fastest one there off the line. Number 12. Honda CT125 Hunter Cub. You ride a CT125, which means you understand something the rest of the riding world hasn't figured out yet. Fun doesn't need to be fast. This bike says you like simplicity. You like puttering down trails, bouncing through back roads, and carrying 3 grocery bags on a rack that's somehow sturdier than half the bikes in this video. You don't wear a race suit. You wear cargo pants. You carry snacks. You wave at cows. Your helmet might have a camera on it, but only because you like filming sunsets, not stunts. The CT-125 is slow. So what? It'll go anywhere. It'll survive anything. And it'll do it while burning less fuel than your lawnmower. It's not a toy. It's not a joke. It's the Swiss Army knife on 2 wheels. And you ride it like it deserves a parade. Riding a Hunter Cub doesn't make you cool. It makes you right. And deep down, every rider who laughs at it knows they kinda want one too. Number 13. Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS. You ride a Speed Triple RS, which means you wanted a superbike, but couldn't be bothered to lean that far forward. You like your power angry, your riding position upright, and your exhaust note loud enough to rattle parked cars, but still somehow refined. This bike says you're a grown-up hooligan. You've been through the phase of straight-piped R6s and knee-dragging dreams, and now you just want something that lets you misbehave with class. You probably wear a leather jacket that costs more than your last car. Your helmet has subtle graphics because you're mature now. But when that light turns green, you launch like a caffeine-fueled cheetah on a tight schedule. You like torque. You like wheelies. You like the fact that most people still think Triumph only makes Bonnevilles. And every time someone says, "Oh, that's British, right?" you nod like you're sipping tea and absolutely not planning to rip a burnout in second gear. You didn't buy a bike. You bought a gentleman's middle finger, and you ride it like one. Number 14. BMW R18. If you ride an R18, you've got expensive taste, a strong sense of self, and possibly a history of disappointing your Harley dealer. This bike says you like cruisers, but not in the American bar and shield sense. You want long wheelbases, fat tires, chrome everywhere, and enough torque to pull a barn door off its hinges. But you also want it engineered by Germans because, of course you do. You dress well. You smell expensive. Your boots are polished. And your garage probably looks like a museum, complete with a trickle charger and a floor mat branded with the BMW logo. You don't rev your engine at stoplights. You let it idle, like a boxer twin gargling espresso. You don't care if people understand the R18, you barely understand it yourself. You just know it makes you feel important when you roll into town. It's not about speed, it's about presence. And the R18 has more of it than your local mayor. Your motorcycle says more than you think. Maybe it's accurate, maybe it's way off, but either way, it's part of the package. You don't just ride it, you wear it, you show it off, you live through it. And the world sees it whether you like it or not. So, what's your bike saying about you? Drop it in the comments. Let's judge it or defend it, or maybe both. Hit like, subscribe, and stick around. We're just getting started.